This is the most exciting, unexciting graphics card launch I think I've been around for, because Nvidia are launching new graphics cards, the 2060 Super, the 2070 Super, and yes, you guessed it, the 2080 Super. And I'll cut straight to the chase here. These cards don't really offer anything new in terms of maximum outright performance. That is still very much the crown of the RTX 2080 Ti, but what they do is improve frames per second across the board at the exact same price points as before, which is obviously great news for everyone. After all, if you can get more for less, then what's not to like? Now in terms of design, there's not really that much that's changed here. We're still rocking the dual fan Founders cooler that performs a lot better than the blower style of old, but does still leave a little bit to be desired against the more overbuilt solutions like Asus's Strix. We do see the Super logo etched on the back of each card, as well as a slick and shiny new finish to the front, but otherwise it is business as usual. Exactly the same I/O, with an ever so slight 15 watt increase to the total power usage on the 2060S, and a more substantial increase of 40 watts on the 70 Super. If you ask Team Green, I'm sure they'd tell you that this is an area where Nvidia is certainly ahead of AMD, but if you look at the details very closely, it's almost as if these cards were designed to be ever so slightly better than the 5700 and 5700X. And that's because they pretty much have been designed to do exactly that. It's no secret that AMD needed to counter all of the RTX cards with something mid-range, and you can think of Nvidia's Super Editions as almost like a counter to the counter. It's counterception. Almost like there's a kitchen factory in here or something. All of this counter going on. Is that even a joke? That's the worst thing I've ever said in my life. Let's waste no more time though, and let's jump straight into the numbers. And when you compare these against the non-Super cards, we're seeing a decent step up that puts these GPUs into the class above. The 2070 Super can't quite match the 2080, but across the board it looks to be around about 8 to 10% faster than the 2070 of old. But it's definitely the 2060 Super though that's probably the most interesting card in the lineup, with a hugely noticeable boost to performance at every single resolution, and a difference that could prove really immensely useful at hitting those 60 FPS minimums at 1440p and ultra-wide. Now all of these games are tested at ultra settings, remember, so you can always tone them down a little bit to get that bit extra performance, and I will also note that the Metro benchmark was taken from an outdoor sequence, and I would say that it's quite fair to expect lower performance in different parts of the game. In terms of RTX features, well, there are more games coming out than ever before, and Nvidia are very keen to point out that they're bundling a copy of 2 games that will support real-time ray tracing at launch, Control and Wolfenstein Youngblood. But in terms of the raw numbers, however, the story is much the same as it was before. The cards are now more capable at tackling these features, with the 2060 Super reaching identical performance as the 2070 in Battlefield 5, but you will still be losing FPS that you might not want to give up. So it is pretty much going to be on a per game basis and down to personal preference. So if you want my 2 cents on this, I would say that something like Battlefield 5, it's much more noticeable to feel the performance hit than it is to see all the extra eye candy. But in something like Metro, on one of the higher end cards, you do have that bit of performance to spare. It's not quite so critical to the game to have it super responsive, and thus you can turn on the much better lighting, and it is quite a big difference. But I think it's fair to say that no matter what way you look at it, you will never have this option on the current AMD cards, as it's not something that those can do. Obviously this is a space that we're going to be watching in the future, and I would absolutely love to see some competitiveness from Intel and AMD versus Nvidia, but at the moment if you do want the best ray tracing experience, it ultimately is with Nvidia. So then, are these cards worth buying? Well, yes, absolutely. In terms of performance, you're getting more than you had before, and regardless of whether these are straight replacements or just buffer cards to counter AMD, more performance at the same price points is only a good thing. The real elephant in the room with these cards at the moment, however, is how they're going to perform against AMD. What's going to come out on top? Super or 5700, 5700 XT? And unfortunately, all of that information is currently under embargo, which is why we don't have it in this video. But rest assured, as soon as that information can be shared, it will be shared. But what I will say is that even if one card performs better than the other, that's not what it's all about. It's going to come down to pricing. Is AMD going to have more competitive prices, or is Nvidia going to have the more competitive prices? Because if one of these cards is better than the other, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the card to buy, because it's going to be about price to performance. And I would wager that everything will sort of slot into place in the next few months, but in the meantime, maybe don't jump on everything at launch, let the dust settle a bit, see what's going on, and then make the right GPU pick for yourself. If you do want to be the first to know about which card is better, however, and you want to see a full comparison and benchmarks between the two, get subscribed, as this is coming very, very soon. But in the meantime, you can check out current pricing with the affiliate links down in the description below. Let me know what you think of Super and whether you're going to be buying one of these cards. Do you think that this is a very nice thing for Nvidia to do, or is this purely just a business decision and they should have done this earlier? Let me know down in the comment section, and ultimately do get subscribed, do hit the like button, it helps out so much, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so much, I'll see you in the next one.